Simplify your federal agency's technology procurement with Connection Public Sector Solutions. Connection's dedicated account managers, commitment to exceptional customer service, and extensive catalog of federal contracts make IT purchases quick, easy, and affordable. Turn your challenges into opportunities and get rid of your technology pain points with Connection today. Learn more about what's possible with Connection Public Sector Solutions at connection.com/Fed contracts.
You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet, where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep, Dark Truth.
Welcome back to the Deep Dark Truth. I'm still Mo.
I'm also Mo.
And I'm Mikey. Call me Bigfoot, 313-355-3411. Anyways, this is part 2 of D.B. Cooper, a continuation of our previous episode. So if you haven't heard it yet, go back and give it a listen. But before we get started, here is Mikey with a word from today's sponsor.
Brush is an electric toothbrush that will change the way you think about brushing your teeth. With powerful sonic technology and ultra-gentle bristles, the Brush redefines what it means to have super clean teeth. It's like that feeling when you leave the dentist, a fresh whole mouth clean, every single day. Our listeners will get 15% off their total purchase with code POD15. Follow the link in the show notes and enter the code POD15 to get your exclusive discount and upgrade your oral care routine.
And we just want to thank Bruce for being today's sponsor. So we are going to jump back into the theories and details surrounding D.B. Cooper.
Dan Cooper.
Or as Chip thinks that he is on a first name basis with the man, Dan Cooper.
I am on the accurate name with the man.
So let's jump back in.
The official FBI description and that artist rendition thing. The artist's interpretation of the photo. He is described as white, male, mid-40s, height 5'10" to 6 foot, weight 170 to 180 pounds, well-built, his complexion, olive, Latin appearance, medium smooth, direct quote, dark brown or black hair, normal style, because normal, parted on the left, combed back, sideburns, lower ear level. Eyes, possibly brown. He wore sunglasses afterwards. His voice was low, spoke intelligently, no particular accent, possibly from Midwest section of United States. Characteristics: heavy smoker of...
Raleigh.
How do you pronounce the cigarette brand? Heavy smoker of Raleigh filter tip cigarettes. He wore a fucking suit. The reason I'm annoyed about how plain he is because everyone's like, look how much this guy looks like this white man. Oh my god, this white man could be this white man's drawing's twin.
Yeah.
This one looks exactly like it. You think this is a drawing of him. It's a drawing. I think it was Peterson. Part of it was, there's this photo of me where I'm dressed exactly like him. You mean a black suit? You were a white man wearing a black suit? Wow, that sure is interesting. So anyone who thinks they look like... And he looks like... Oh, I just forgot his name. He looks to me like the fictional character Avengers
Coulson.
Died,
Yeah.
but then
Coulson.
he got his own spin-off.
How dare
He looks
you
a
not
lot like
remember
him.
Philip Coulson's name?
I don't care when you revive a character and take all the heart out of having murdered him.
I'm so mortally offended.
So, he's a very boring white man, and everyone looks like a boring white man. If Mikey aged poorly, he could be this man. Just spent a lot of time angry. I was trying to read all their theories so I could be like, no, clearly that doesn't do this, or, oh, you're right, this is a strong theory. No, none of them are strong theories.
Tommy Wiseau!
The one true theory! It could be pronounced anyway. They're still correcting it. He says it different ways.
You've been waiting this entire show to talk about this. The real reason that we're doing this episode, but the real reason that we're doing this is because in the very first episode of this show, we talked about conspiracy theories that we did and didn't believe in, what you could never make us believe, what we were open to, our favorite true crime cases, a whole bunch of things. And I'm sure that those will change over time. We'll do another one of those in a Q&A. But Chip purported this theory that Tommy Wiseau was DB Cooper, and I had no idea at the time who Tommy Wiseau was.
Is because I have the truth. Patent pending.
Through that time, when we recorded nearly 2 years ago, that first episode,
Foreshadowing.
all leading up to this moment of Chip doing this episode.
I am here to announce my campaign for
Okay.
U.S. Congress. Based on my expertise as a DB Cooper researcher. I can't even say it. I'm so mad.
Okay, be less mad, and instead, finally, drumroll.
Tell us the truth. You want the truth because Tommy Wiseau has an unconfirmed birth date, unconfirmed birthplace, an unidentifiable accent, and too much money. DB Cooper was in his 40s in 1971. He had a fake vocabulary. He is unknown. He disappeared forever, and he was a white man. Tommy Wiseau. Where did he get all this money? I don't know. He won't tell. Does he even know? He seems a little out of it, but that could just be an act. He won't confirm his birth date. He won't confirm his birthplace. For a long time, he refused to admit that he was from Europe at all. But he's from Europe because his accent, which is unidentifiable, this is not a real accent. It's kind of Eastern European. His friend, I don't know what to call him, the person who talked about how bad the room was and thus made The Disaster Artist, which was first his memoir and then a movie as played by what's-his-face? Freaks and Geeks.
Maybe James Franco?
That one! His friend, Tommy Wiseau's friend, who writes this thing, the tell-all about this bad movie that I made with my friend. He is like, Tommy says that his birth date was around this day. He doesn't give exact numbers, Tommy. But my girlfriend found his immigration papers, which imply that he was actually born in the mid to late 50s. Will we produce this information? No. But the point is, Tommy Wiseau, if he had been born mid to late 50s, would have only been
A child.
16-ish. But
Yeah.
he doesn't age well, and that date is essentially made up by his friend, and the date he gives is obviously not true because he says he was born in 68, and if you've looked at him, he's not that age. He's older than that. He says he's American. He loves saying he's American. He is American. He immigrated here. For a long time, he refused to admit he ever looked at Europe.
So he would say American currency?
He might, in his very weird vocabulary and incredibly fake accent, say negotiable American currency. He's a white man. DB Cooper was a white man.
You know, for one true theory, Chip, I gotta say, you're on the same level as everyone you've been angry about this whole episode. I'm not.
You see how I'm not getting a book deal
I'm
for
not
it.
seeing like the plain.
DB Cooper dropped out of the sky, dropped into the sky never to be seen again, and Tommy Wiseau just landed at our feet. Where the fuck did he come from? The sky.
I mean,
with
I love it.
$200,000.
Don't get me wrong.
He invested well, and he's now filthy rich, and no
you would
one
have
knows
to
why.
invest because $200,000, it's gone.
But if you invest well,
Was Tommy Wiseau ever dating a flight attendant?
That doesn't
stewardess?
make the theory better, Mikey.
Tommy Wiseau,
But
we are open to
maybe-
an interview. Please contact us at the Deep Dark Truth Podcast at gmail.com. Or you can call our tip line at
313-355-3411. Mikey just wants your theory and his theory to line up so you guys can tag team me, which is not
Correct.
the kind of tag teaming I'm interested in at all.
It works all the time.
It's
We just
true.
create this master theory that just
We are
works.
always
It
right.
clicks.
It's not that we just have the same theory. We're just always right. Every time.
That sounds fake.
We solved the Titanic and the Britannic
We
and
did.
the Olympic.
Did you do that? I don't remember it like that.
And now Dan Cooper.
I jumped straight by Rackstraw, a career criminal, ex-military, disgraced person who is someone else's pet of the I definitely know who DB Cooper is without a possible doubt. Eric Ollis likes to say he's 98% sure. You know, there's a chance I'm wrong about who DB Cooper is. But what about this other consulting business? It's this guy who's, I think the retired FBI just like them. Hey, think it's Robert Rackstraw. They think that because Robert Backstraw did crime in the area at that time. That's it. He has experience jumping out of planes, and he had fake identities. And their proof is, we haven't talked about the letters yet. There were letters that were supposedly from D.B. Cooper taunting the police. They decoded one of these letters to find a clue that says, I am Robert Rackstraw. And then they copyrighted that evidence.
How? What?
What? I'm so
So
lost.
let's back up. There are some letters. I'm sure there are thousands. But there are like 4, 6, 10 letters that people bother to talk about. We'll ignore all those other letters. These are the special ones that were received to various newspapers shortly after, the year after the crime, and then stopping paying attention to them, that were from D.B. Cooper taunting the police. Some of them were handwritten. Some of them were typed. Some of them were magazine clippings. Classic magazine letters clipped. One of them might have a code that says, I'm Robert Rackstraw. None of them have been proved to even possibly be from a possible D.B. Cooper. They're
How
just
many people
letters.
have seen the letters? What do you mean they copy? How do you copyright?
Well, now, as I don't remember when it was, but Freedom of Information Act, a lot of the info got released about this, about
The
D.B. Cooper.
audacity
And so
of
people have been
copywriting
using it.
evidence. I've never...
They are my least favorite of the group. Copyrighted the evidence. One's running for public office, the other copyrighted evidence, another is refusing to update their book even though they got a movie deal, but they can't update their book. And then there's my nice scientists who are kind of dumb about the tie, but at least they're not trying to profit off of it.
I just got a glimpse at Chip's notes. And, Chip mad.
It's mostly not notes. It's mostly yelling.
All right, Chip, tell us about the letters you were talking about. What's the deal with the letters?
So people talk about 6 letters, even though there were more than 6 letters. I don't know why these 6 are considered special. They are sent to all different places. I don't think any of them ended up like 2 to 1 place. There are several to newspapers, and I think at least one to one of the police departments. But they're like newspapers all over the place, like down in Oakdale, California, when, if you recall, we're in Washington. So yes, it was the Oakdale one that was the first letter, which of them is the most interesting because it was received on November 29th. And if you recall, the flight was on November 24th, 1971. So that one is, sent fairly close after it happened. Not that this wasn't major news at the time, but at least it was close.
It was before it became so much of a legend, a larger-than-life looming legend.
And so that first letter is just classic cutout letters from magazine, and it read, "Attention, thanks for the hospitality, was in a rut."
I love that.
That's really what it said?
Thanks so much.
That one was-
XOXO Gossip
That one was
Girl.
signed D.B. Cooper, and goddammit, I don't remember which letter it is.
The name had already started D.B. Cooper. We can guess. Otherwise, he would have signed it Dan. And now that you've put this into my head, Chip, the fact that it's not signed Dan Cooper makes me very suspicious.
The third letter, maybe. Someone receives a letter and it says, "Tell the media my name is not D.B. Cooper." Something along those lines. This is the one that our dear friends over at What's-It-Fuck copyrighted their code. They decoded this letter, and actually...
Oh, so it was coded a la Zodiac.
No, it said, "I am not D.B. Cooper." They believe they've decoded it to say, "I am Robert Rackstraw," their suspect of choice. And so they copyrighted that.
So they copyrighted their decoding system that they magically use?
Yeah. So it was the 5th letter and the 6th letter that the certain team think that they've decoded. That the 5th letter goes on for quite a while, talking about himself. "I'm no modern day Robin Hood, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a boasting man," direct quote. "I wore a toupee. I wore putty makeup.
That seems suspicious. Like, giving the game away and being like, oh, I don't even look like that. Like, why would you tell people that are actively looking at you for committing a crime or looking for you? Why would you say, oh, well, you know, all these specific things were fake about me? That seems stupid, unless you're just so embroiled in your own hubris at this point.
Yeah, well, he is. He obviously says, I'm not that boastful, as he writes a letter to them, saying all the things that he's not.
So, I mean, it could be that he just became wrapped up in himself and the infamy, but it could equally be that somebody perceived that that's how he would be and wrote the letter from that perspective. But the idea of saying, I'm not D.B. Cooper...
Oh, that one, the fifth one, also includes, unfortunately, I do have only 14 months to live.
Well, that is something that Mikey brought up.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
If he is somebody with nothing to lose and he's dying, why wouldn't you jump on a plane if you're dying anyway? Who cares about the parachute? Right. Like, get the money. Maybe you can leave the money to somebody, which, you know, we know that no money ended up being in circulation. But the motivation behind it then becomes very different. That fear is not going to be as present.
Not that you're not going to have fear of like, oh, that's bad. Body doesn't like doing that.
Right.
He could have gave money away to somebody else in a different faraway land, right?
But they never used it in its capacity as U.S. negotiable American currency.
I can take money from you, Chip, and use it to buy diamonds from someone and it not be tracked.
Yeah, but they never find those serial numbers in circulation, period. So eventually that person is going to spend that money that you just gave them for the diamonds.
So they're all exclusively buying black market. Deep down and no one's like letting anything slip.
Yeah, it's the Illuminati. That's how they've been funding themselves the entire time,
Cooper
Chip.
is Illuminati.
They all just keep passing along this money secretly.
Basically, my question was, if that money is used and circulated in a different country, is it tracked the same way that it's tracked in the country? So, like, you know, they're checking banks and whatever in the country to see if anybody's using that money. Mm-hmm. But if it's not domestic, is it still getting tracked the same way?
When you deposit the money in a bank, at least here, God knows how banks work elsewhere. I assume Europe is similar. The bank is then using that money. It's not just sitting somewhere. One of the letters does say, this letter is to let you know I am not dead, but really alive and just back from the Bahamas. Supposedly, he was out of the country. It's letter number 6.
Seems fake. Seems fake that he left and came back.
What if he didn't need the money? What if he had all the money and he just wanted to
That's
pull
sort of
it
what
off?
it comes down to, whether he did or didn't.
If he was dying and only had so long to live, maybe it was just his bucket list. We all have weird items on our bucket list.
Maybe it wasn't even like that. Maybe he's a CIA agent and he was rich and he went on vacation all over the world and he just wanted to pull this heist off as a joke. What if it was a dare from one of his friends?
Hijack a plane. No one's daring you to hijack a plane. Yeah, some of them are typed. Some of them are handwritten. Some of them are magazine clippings, classical. They all... The last one, number 6, that because we care about 6 of them, was in March. The first 5 were from November to, like, late December. Number 6 comes much later after the fact, because he just got back from the Bahamas.
Yeah, the fact that none of them align with each other makes me think that people just wanted in on this. Like, they just wanted to be a part of it. It was a fun thing for them to send a fake letter. It's like a prank phone call, but not.
Exactly. And this is why they're all useless.
Maybe one of them is true, but I feel like if he went with a certain way to execute it, so if he hand wrote it, if he did the cutout letters, if he typed it, that he would have been consistent with those things as to not give himself away.
I think.
All 3 of those ways you can give yourself away. Handwriting by having handwriting analysis, the magazines by sourcing those specific magazines. Are they local? Are they very specific to this region of the country? The typewriter has its own different forensic ways to analyze it. There's just different ways for all of it. So any way you put it, you're not going to do multiple ways. You can get caught through one way, and if you're getting away with it, you're not going to switch up.
Yeah, you're just giving yourself more ways to fuck up.
It's interesting to think about, and it's interesting to think about what people
were kind of putting on him, whether that's his personality that they have attributed to him, especially since we really don't know that much about him or as a person, aside from the fact that he was quote unquote nice and friendly to the passengers he was holding for ransom.
He was a swell guy, you know. If he wasn't holding a plane hostage, I would think I was on a date.
Aside from that, everything is an illusion, right? Like, we don't know that he really is a suit and tie wearing person. He could have just wore those things to seem innocuous.
There's still time to play Shop, Play, Win Monopoly at Safeway. With over $230 million in prizes and money-saving offers. Game ends May 4th. Satisfy your thirst with Coca-Cola, bubbly or sparkling ice. Take a snack break with Sargento cheese or Ritz. And serve up fun with Pop-Tarts. Increase your chances to win. Shop these bonus ticket items specially tagged in store. Download the Shop, Play, Win app to play today. No purchase necessary. See rules at www.shopplaywin.com. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
All right, Mikey, what's your move? What do you think it is? Who do we think DB Cooper is?
The flight attendant.
I can't. I keep fixating on the American currency thing. I don't think he was from here. I think it was an inside job. I think the stewardess wasn't on it. The 4 parachutes is throwing me way off. Why
so that he had
for 4
parachutes to choose from if he thought that they were going to sabotage him.
Why didn't they sabotage all 4?
Well, I don't know if it was sabotage or if necessary it was a...
Yeah, it could have just been like, this one was already sewn closed and we just gave it to him because we needed another parachute to give to him. And if he fell without a parachute, not my problem.
The plane did have to taxi around, where was it, Seattle, for a while to let them have time to get their money and parachutes. So those passengers who didn't know what was happening was just like, this is weird.
Y'all are gonna hate me.
Why are we landing?
I have a theory that he's dead, though.
I think he's dead too. There's so many things that lead me to like have that hint that he could have been alive. The main thing being the money and the rubber band and the fact that it was buried again. But it equally could have been somebody that had heard the news, had an idea that it was DB Cooper's money, wanted to keep it, but knew that the police were probably looking for that money. There is somewhat of an explanation, but the money thing is really what I'm hung up on. Just something tells me he jumped out of that plane and something unforeseen happened. Whether that ends up he was stuck in a tree and just starved to death like some episode of Lost.
Oh, that would be the saddest one.
Because it wasn't a steerable parachute. And I think he, when he chose the parachute, thought it was going to be steerable. We just don't know. But something tells me DB Cooper died.
Dan Cooper died.
And I don't want that to be the case. I don't. It's not as good of a story. It's not as fun to talk about.
I can't write a book about that. I can't run for Congress on that.
Maybe he did survive, in which case he would have had to assume a new identity. For example, I don't think it's Tommy Wiseau, though. I think he would have led a life that was just under the radar. Don't want anyone to know. It's my secret that I am somewhat weirdly proud of because I know that I have this folk hero legend around me, but equally don't feel like going to jail.
Survived the plane jump. Not gonna survive prison. It's just really interesting that money has never been spent. None of those serial numbers has ever come up outside of that $5,800.
Well, she's too scared to, and that's why she, got rid of one. She's probably just gonna get rid of them one by one.
But then, you get nothing for it is the thing. You have to trade it to someone to get in on its value. If you're not dead, you have to at least give it to a criminal organization.
She could have sold a few bundles. You never know. She could have sold a few bundles.
But then those bundles stayed out of circulation.
The only thing I can think of is that the money, for the majority of it at least, stayed in a backpack or whatever on the body, and the body has never been discovered, and so you'll find the rest of the money when you find a body.
But then it's weird. How did these bundles get away? If the body was eaten by wolves and most of the money eaten by wolves,
well, because
why weren't these
the
bodies
body
eaten by
probably
wolves?
wasn't eaten by wolves. Why was it buried? There's no good answer.
And that's why everyone has a book deal. I mean, why everyone loves this case.
Plenty of people without book deals do enjoy this case.
And it will never be solved. Stop trying to solve it. The DNA probably isn't even definitive. Confessions are the least definitive of all the evidence. They are practically anti-evidence.
I think it's fun to speculate, but I don't think anybody actually wants the answer, because the answer's probably a lot more mundane than we would like it to be.
Who cares how many cigarettes he smoked? He did.
Well, and he was 40 at the time, so if you think about it, he might have only had to keep the secret, if he lived, of being D.B. Cooper for 20 years, maybe. Like, maybe he died early. Maybe he died at 60.
Maybe he was dead by 1991.
Or he died at 94.
Do you think people create gigantic crimes like this and don't tell a single person?
Mm-mm.
The only way to keep a secret.
Exactly.
For our future patrons, you will one day learn this story. How long was it before you told anybody about the penguin? I didn't even hear the penguin story until this last year.
I heard this penguin story at the same time Moe did. That doesn't make sense.
I think my family knew, and I think the person I did it with and the person who received it as a gift.
So that's quite a few people, but you didn't even tell me for years.
But that's my whole thing. The only thing I've ever thought of, like real crime I've ever committed, I had to have a cohort. I really think the fucking stewardess is in on it. Especially if you're gonna hijack a plane and ask for ransom and jump out of it. You need some help from somewhere, or you need someone to know what you're doing or what you're planning.
Or it's the 70s and planes are getting hijacked all the fucking time.
I'm so emotional. Once upon a time, I was your cohort, you know? And then you don't even tell me these things. I have to learn them on the
I
show.
just feel like we've grown apart, and I just don't know why. And I miss you. I miss who you were.
It just makes me believe somebody was in on it. That why the 4 parachutes? It still sticks out into my head. He obviously knew he needed a front and a back. Why did he ask for 2 sets of front and backs unless there was somebody else?
Why did he use weird terms for it, though? He didn't use, like, terms they would have been using in the 70s.
He didn't want them to think that he was experienced at all with parachutes.
Right.
And then they handed him instructions. He was like,
Who jumps out of a plane for the first time?
Period. End of sentence.
Who jumps out of a plane for the very first time after hijacking a plane and getting $200,000? Nobody does all of those things for the first time at once.
You can hijack a plane for the first time.
You don't hijack a plane twice.
You can jump out of a plane for the first time. You could get $200,000 ransom for the first time. You can't do all 3 of those at the same time. It's against the rules. I'm sorry.
I mean, if it's the first time you jump out of a plane and it goes poorly.
I guess you're not going to jail.
Upside, if I survive, I get $200,000. If I don't.
Oh, you've just recontextualized everything.
Well, you would get $100,000 because there was 2 people.
Well, she chickened
involved.
out. She doesn't get a penny.
And that's how he chose the plane. Stop
roping me into your theory.
It all adds up. That's why they were able to keep everyone calm and they didn't know about it. I'm telling you. Think about if that happened. She would scream, run over to the stewardess. The stewardess would make a big ordeal. Like, it would get out somehow.
All right, put it in your movie, bud.
Coming this fall.
Our movie, right?
Oh, I get money? Okay. I'm with Mikey. Mikey's has the best theory.
I will show you this evidence I have for a price.
Mo, do you not know something about me? Like, I can start something great, but finish something?
Oh, I don't want to be in charge of finishing it.
Me and Mo follow through.
I need a closer.
You are the follow through, Mo. Look at this podcast that you've built.
You are a closer.
Do you have any plans for world domination?
I do. Do you know how many things I've followed through on? One less than you.
Yeah, Mo, let's face it. In this group, you're the closer.
I don't choose it. There's no movie anymore.
Mikey will help you finish, but Mo will close it.
I quit. I know we just started.
I quit.
Again, this was the breaking point. This episode. We're gonna cast Tommy Wiseau.
You guys are already asking as if you're asking for my permission, as if I'm gonna run this shit show, and I'm absolutely not.
You're playing the stewardess.
She's a victim. She's a victim of his charm, and he was using her to find out the flight paths and information about the interior of the plane.
If you were in on it with him too, you'd be like, oh yeah, he was a nice guy. He was super polite.
Super chill. It was like we weren't even being hijacked.
It had nothing to do with me. That's all I know. He was a good guy, and that's all I have to say about that. He seemed fine.
What you gonna do? You gonna rat him out afterwards? You can't.
I just saw him for the first time just now when he was holding me for ransom.
When he was holding my hand, I mean for ransom. When trying to determine if the flight path was correct, near the time when he jumped off the plane, the placard fell off of the plane that, like, I think it was like, these are the stairs or something. So that was found on someone's property. That's the only thing that ever made to the ground that we found besides the money. So the location of that placard indicates things about the flight path. And my scientist people think it means the flight path is good. No one else cares.
Of course they don't. But that kind of discounts that the money landed where it landed and somebody definitely buried it.
Like the stewardess.
Like if the stewardess came back to the scene of the crime.
He slipped her them while he was still on the plane. Put it in her purse. She has that $5,800, but now she's like, I can't spend it. I'm going to go bury it in the river.
Correct. That's what my theory is.
He was like, get a flight to Mexico City and we'll meet up. And we'll go live in Cancun.
All right, so we're going, Tommy was so in love with the stewardess.
Tommy was so in love in Paris, on the moon, on ice.
It's obviously Agent Coulson. It's like 100% Agent Coulson.
Faked his death once.
That's who it is.
He could do it again. So that's been Dan Cooper, a.k.a. DB Cooper, a.k.a. he doesn't write letters to anyone, a.k.a. he's not actually rich because he never spent his money. Sorry. What? What are we doing here? Who am I? I'm Moe.
What if he was rich and he didn't need
He's
it?
just sitting somewhere. He gilded it. It's now covered in gold. That's my theory. This is what I'm going with. He has a trophy of the money he stole. Except for those 3 bundles.
If there is any theories that you have heard that we did not cover in this episode, let us know by sending us an email at thedeepdarktruthpodcast@gmail.com or sending a tip into the tip line at 313-355-3411. Join us for our next episode about the boy in the box. And make sure you check out our new merch, Allegedly. That is allegedly being the name of the merch line.
And the name of our podcast now.
Allegedly, it's the name.
Until next time, I'm Moe.
I'm Moe.
And I'm Moe.
Can you imagine being me?
That sounds overwhelming.
No.
Goodbye. They've killed my spirit. This is what I sound like now.
You just listened to the Deep Dark Truth Podcast. See you next time. And remember, your local cryptids want to meet you.